started the next round at the end of April, and it was called Delayed Intensification, and this looked pretty intense. It had all the medicines he's taken so far crammed into these 2 months, including the chemo that we gave to him at home. He was able to be at relay recess in Stanton and was an honorary beneficiary of that. It was a great day. Nolan was able to come and walk with him through the parade of survivors. We also had a few more hospitalizations this time. One time it was for a virus and a cold, and he was in the hospital for a couple days. And while we were there, he got a rash on his arm from his wristband, so we knew not to give those again to him.
Ready? All right.
When we got home, we were only there for a few days and was able to celebrate Mother's Day at home. And he was doing pretty well until we noticed a rash again on his leg. And this rash was pretty painful. It was over Memorial Day weekend, and then he had a fever that spiked. We went to the ER, and they were testing those bumps. They weren't sure, but they looked like shingles. He had the chickenpox vaccine at 12 months of age, and so that virus was in his system. It ended up that it was the shingles, and you can see in these pictures he even had a few pox that broke out on his head. We had to stay in the isolation room, which was pretty isolating in the PICU because of his status of being so contagious. Dan brought Nolan up on a weekend, and he and I stayed at the Ronald McDonald House and took a day to the Science Center while Dan stayed with Emmett. You really miss that other kid when you're isolated like that. Nolan and Emmett usually made fun wherever they were. He was able to finally come home at the beginning of June, right before Relay for Life. We'd already planned on being there, and he was going to be an honorary chairperson for that event, and we were hoping to get there. He was pretty tired that day for Relay for Life, and he was only eating white bread and drinking white milk. He'd kind of not wanted to eat that week at the hospital. He also had to hold his chemo while he was doing this, so that meant we were going to be delayed even longer. When we got home, he finally felt a little better and was back on his feet, and we started camping a little bit too, which he just loved. Even though our first trip out, he fell off the steps of the camper and bumped his head, but luckily it wasn't bad enough to go anywhere else. Right after that, we were able to move to the new clinic, and here are some pictures that Emmett helped paint for the walls there. They had the kids all paint pictures to hang on the new walls at the new clinic. The next time we went to clinic for chemo was kind of a rough one too. He ended up needing platelets and a transfusion, and Nolan was along that day, and thank goodness he was. Emmett ended up getting really sick and throwing up everywhere, and Nolan was such a big helper. We finally got some days on the golf course too. We had a great night golfing as a family and had a great evening. But that night ended up with another fever, and the next day we were back at the ER, spending the 4th of July weekend in the hospital. Aunt Barb came to hang out with Emmett for a night so Dan and I could go out to dinner for our anniversary on the 5th. But he ended up feeling well once he got over that initial fever, and actually had a lot of fun playing in the hospital that weekend. Every fever requires a trip to the ER or to the clinic to check his port for infection. But now, that round was over and maintenance was met.